Hi, I'm Andy and welcome to my channel about crypto. In today's video I want to talk about NFTs and more specifically about flipping NFTs, so buying them and selling them for profit. Of course it goes without saying that it's not a financial advice. NFTs are very new and crypto space overall of course is quite risky and NFTs carry even more risk. So you have to be very careful and make sure that whatever you're doing in terms of investing in NFTs is in line with your own risk tolerance and your financial capabilities. But I just wanted to give you some ideas and some tools what can be done and how you may want to approach it. So first of all, how do you find new NFT projects? Well, you could go to OpenSea, which is a bit like eBay for NFTs, or Immutable X, which is a similar platform. And you could then just look for a particular project here, or you could look at the stats. So for example, rankings and see what currently is most popular. So you can see that at the moment, the Sandbox and Bored Ape Yacht Club have the highest volume of sales. But a lot of those projects, well, you don't necessarily want to get into them when they are at their absolute peak. That's a good time to sell, but not necessarily buy. And also a lot of those projects may be already quite well established and very expensive. For example, Bored Ape Yacht Club has floor price, so the minimum price you have to pay for one of those NFTs is almost 50 ETH, which is around, well, in excess of $200,000. So what you need is a way to find those projects before they pump. So the best way to find new NFT projects is just simply go on YouTube and Twitter and see what people are talking about. I may be talking about various NFT projects a few times a week. Plenty of other YouTubers may be talking about sometimes every day. Follow people who are very popular in the space, someone like Elliot Trades or Alex Becker. But also much smaller YouTubers or people who are active on Twitter, because they may sometimes find projects a bit earlier or some smaller projects which may be easier to get into. So the best idea is to have really broad array of sources where you can find out about new projects. And then you go to the project website or their Twitter, find their details of their Telegram or usually Discord, and essentially just see what's going on, what the project is about. A lot of projects may not necessarily have a website, especially in the early stages. Some of them do, but very often you will find that they will have just Twitter and Discord. And if we look at projects like, let's say, Apocalyptic Apes, well, they do happen to have a website, and it's a quite typical website of an NFT project. There is a bit of a story. There is a box to mint an Apocalyptic Ape, but as you can see, that's coming soon. They will be minting in, I think, mid-December. There is a bit of a story behind the project and the team who's behind them. There is a roadmap. That's very important to be able to assess the project, or at least to give you an idea what the team is planning. Sometimes they may not really have much of a plan. Some projects are literally started as a joke and then they may develop into something better or not. But some projects have very ambitious roadmap. Bear in mind that this may not always necessarily go according to the plan, but it's good to see what they are planning. Is it feasible? Is it something that you are interested in? Do you think that this may actually add to the value of the project overall? Then you have the team, and it helps if the team is not anonymous, and also it helps them to be able to actually verify what they've done before. But that being said, there are some really successful projects that are anonymous or where the team is completely new to the NFT space. But of course, if the team is already well established in this space, it does help a bit. And then you can join the Discord, or if you look here at the top, well, you can join the Discord channel, Twitter. Sometimes there's also Instagram or YouTube, but Discord and Twitter are usually the most popular channels to build the community and to communicate with the members of the community. When you participate in the Discord or Twitter of a particular project, it gives you a chance to get on the whitelist, because there are a few different ways how you can purchase an NFT. The easiest one is we'll go on the secondary market, such as OpenSea, and simply look for the NFT you are interested in. Let's say I want to purchase bear X, and then I just buy one of the bears of the secondary market. But as you can see, the prices here start from, if I filter them by buy now, the prices start from 0.36, almost 0.37 Ether. And if I go to their website, this project minted a couple of weeks ago, so I cannot mint it anymore. All the bears were already, or the NFTs were already created, minted. But if I scroll it down, well, you could mint them for 0.05 ETH plus gas. And at the moment they're 0.37, so essentially like 7.5, almost 8 times more than they were to mint. So of course, buying on the secondary market generally is more expensive. Some projects are very successful, some are quite successful, others may flop completely, and then potentially you may be able to get a lower price, but there is high risk that you may not necessarily get a profit out of it. But ideally, you want to get into a project when it's minting, because that secures you that NFT at the lowest possible price. And there are 2 ways to do it. You can either do it during the public mint, but there is a risk of a gas war. So essentially, if a project is very popular, there will be a lot of people wanting to mint it at the same time. And to secure their spot, to secure their NFT, they will be upping their gas price. And for very popular projects, I've seen it before that gas went up to something like $5,000 or $6,000 to actually mint a couple of NFTs. So even though the price of the NFT itself may be very, very low, you may pay so much in gas that it may be actually worth, in that case, buying it on the secondary market. Ideal scenario is if you are on the whitelist. So basically you can still get it during the mint, but it's during the private mint, which happens usually before the public one. And basically that's usually spread over something like, I don't know, 4 to 24 hours or even 48 hours. So there's no rush. Everyone who's on that whitelist has a spot and knows they can mint their NFTs. There is limited number of NFTs everyone can mint, and that's also true for the public sale. As you can see in this case, you could only mint 2 BearX NFTs. Very often the limit is either 2 or 3. I've seen it as low as 1 and as high as 10, but around 2 to 3 is probably the most popular. And essentially that gives you then option to buy it at the lowest possible price, but you also don't have to worry about gas price, because you can pick a moment when gas is relatively low and there is no that sudden rush of everyone wanting to do it at the same time, because everyone knows they have their spot. So these are the way of getting an NFT. So whitelist, public mint, or secondary market. And to get on the whitelist, there are a few different methods to do it. Very often you have to be very active in their Discord channel, helpful to other members. Sometimes it may be just a case of literally posting anything in the Discord channel just to get your XP points up, and essentially, well, you're just grinding on Discord to get your whitelist spot, which is a bit of a pain, but sometimes it may be worth it. There are often a lot of competitions, either organized by the developers of a particular NFT, or maybe some YouTubers who are connected to the project and so on. So, for example, in the case of BearX, I won my whitelist spot by, I think, commenting and retweeting one of their tweets. And I didn't really hope for much because the project was very, very popular. But yeah, I won a whitelist spot. So it happens quite often, and essentially the more active you are, the bigger chances you have to get a spot. So how do you buy project on a secondary market? Let's say that you missed the mint, or maybe the gas was too high or whatever. And to be honest, a lot of projects are still really good buy on the secondary market. So I'll use BearX as an example here. When it comes to evaluating a project overall, you can see that it has 3.7k, well, 3,700 items in this NFT collection. So that's quite good. It gives us an indication of how many NFTs of this type are out there. A lot of collections will have 10,000 items. Some of them have only 1,000. So in this case, well, it's quite a low number. And you can see that it's 1.6 thousand owners. And that essentially means that on average, one person has around 2 NFTs of this type, which is quite good. So essentially, the less NFTs per owner, the better. Because you don't want a situation where you have, for example, project where it's like, I don't know, every owner has 10, 15, 20 of those NFTs. Because then each person can manipulate the price quite well, maybe not manipulate the price, but they can dump it all in batches. People are much more precious about their NFTs when they only have a couple of them of that particular kind rather than 10 or 20, because they will think much more about selling those NFTs when they have, let's say, just 2 rather than when they have 20, right? You can see floor price, which is essentially the minimum price you have to pay for one of those NFTs at the moment, and the volume traded since they were listed on OpenSea. So at the moment that's 1.9 thousand Ether. And this gives you an idea of how popular those NFTs are. Of course, you have to take floor price in context as well, because if the floor price is really high, then you would expect this figure to be much higher as well. You can see all the NFTs here. I selected them by buy now. I can deselect that, which then also loads ones which are on auction. So, for example, this one has a top bid of 0.02 ETH. There's no chance that the seller will accept that bid, because as you can see, the cheapest one that actually is available for sale is 0.37. You may want to look at the auctions and see how far that price is from the list price. As you can see, actually here there are only 6 bears listed on auction. Vast majority of them is either unlisted or listed as buy now. So if we look at the ones which have buy now option, well, you can see that they start at 0.37 ETH. The cheapest ones are most likely the most common ones, and you can see the features here. So we can see what types of backgrounds they have. So if we look at something like, let's say, eyes expression, you can see that bears with 4 eyes are by far the rarest ones, or at least this is the most rare trait when it comes to eyes, because out of 3,700 bears, only 41 will have 4 eyes. Just one rare trait doesn't necessarily mean that that particular NFT is rare already. Ideally, you will have multiple rare traits, and that then makes it really unique. And you can check it using websites such as Rarity tools, where you would just look for particular collection, and then you can see how rare particular NFT is. You can look it by its ID, look it up by its ID, and then you can see, and that's the ID here. You can then see how rare that particular NFT is. And you can also see whether the floor at a particular price is thick or thin. So essentially, we can see here that each of those bears is listed at a different price. But once we get to 0.4, we already have multiple ones, well, 3 listed at the same price. And this becomes important when particular NFT suddenly becomes popular, because let's say that, I don't know, a really popular YouTuber mentioned BearX in their video and people start buying them up. Well, if you go and try to buy this one, there's pretty good chance that your transaction may fail because probably someone else is already trying to buy this one. So it often makes sense when the project is pumping to go at least a couple of NFTs higher up to make sure that your transaction doesn't fail and you don't lose gas. But also you can see how quickly the floor price will change. I mean, here it will literally, every time each of those bears is sold, the floor price will start going up. And when OpenSea is busy, there's quite a bit of a lag, so don't fully trust this price. You may want to check activity level, and even that may have a bit of a delay in terms of current sales. So you just have to bear that in mind. But then let's say once we get to 0.4 ETH, well, we know that it will take 3 sales for the floor price to go up to 0.42 and so on. And in this case, the floor is pretty thin at all price levels. At 0.45, we have 4 bears at the same price. So, but sometimes you may see that there's, let's say, I don't know, 8 or 10 listed at the same price. And you will then see that actually it may take a while before they go to the next step above that. And also, when you see something like this, so you see the current list price and how much it was sold for the last time. Usually when you see same current price and last sale price, it means that it's being bought right now. Literally the sale just went through. It just didn't update it yet and it didn't disappear as being sold. This is not always true, because it may be a case similar to here and here, where actually someone paid for it a bit more and now they're selling it at a loss. So it's possible that someone just listed this one and essentially they just want to get back their original investment. They don't want to make any money, they just need the liquidity. But very often when the market is busy, when particular NFT is selling really quick, when you see that same price twice, that means that this NFT just sold. So when you're buying an NFT, of course you could look for a particularly rare one, but there will be much more expensive ones. Or you generally try to look for a cheap one, because that's the easiest one to flip later. But also you can try to find one that's reasonably cheap and quite attractive looking. Of course, that's quite a difficult thing to judge because everyone has different preference. But I don't know, out of those bears here, you may think that, okay, well, I don't know, this one in a helmet may not be, for example, as popular or as cool looking as this one. So maybe this one will be easier to sell or will sell for a bit more, even though the difference in price is tiny. Of course, it's a bit of a guesswork in terms of how they look like, because it depends who will be buying it. So first and foremost, you should be looking at the price and how easy it will be to flip it, but it's just something worth considering, especially if you have few listed at the same price. Like let's say at 0.42 ETH, we have these two, and this one's only, these two are on a tiny bit more expensive. Well, you could then try to work out which one of those is the most rare one or most likely to sell easily in the future, because the purchase price is the same anyway, right? So how do you find existing projects? How do you invest in existing projects? Well, you could try to find something that's really well established, so-called blue chip projects, because they're likely to hold value well over a long time, but of course they are much more expensive to get into. Good example here would be something like the Dodge Pound. It's a very well established project that constantly keeps developing, but you have to pay around 2 ETH for one of those, which at the moment is what, close to $9,000. You could get something like Mutant Ape Yacht Club, which is a derivative of Bored Ape Yacht Club. These are over 6 ETH, but then if you look at Bored Ape, well, they are 50 ETH. So potentially they can still keep going up. Then you have something like, let's say, Kaiju Kings. And it's a good project as well, but I picked this one because you can see that the floor price here is 0.9 ETH. But actually there's something very important. These are baby Kaijus here at 0.9 ETH. And what you probably want is one from the Genesis collection. So if you then filter it by Genesis, you can see that these are actually around 2.7 ETH and more. So that's something that's also important to remember. If particular collection has its Genesis collection and then some baby ones or mini ones or whatever they are called, the Genesis collection is most likely always going to be the most valuable one. So you have to be careful, especially with a project like this one, where the artwork is not that dissimilar between Genesis and baby ones, that you don't accidentally buy baby Kaiju thinking that you got the Genesis one. And then we have some upcoming projects that are likely to become, they're already quite successful, but are likely to become even more successful. BearX is doing really well. Ape Harmony Monster Club is another really popular one recently. only 1,100 items, well, 1,111 in fact. So yeah, essentially you just have to dig into it and see what's popular and what may be good as a long-term hold and what's good for a quick flip. In terms of flipping them, well, what's the best way to do it? So if you're buying NFTs, and especially if you're minting them or buying at a relatively low price on a secondary market, I think it always makes sense to get at least 2 or 3 of each type, because this then gives you options. Essentially, okay, so let's say that I'm minting 3 NFTs at 0.05 ETH each. So that's 0.15 ETH in total, plus some gas fees and so on. What I could potentially do, and it's just one strategy, is try to sell one as soon as possible for maybe something like 0.25 ETH, because that then essentially covers my costs, so I can use that liquidity to buy into another project, and also covers my gas and so on, and maybe gives me some profit. Of course, if that NFT is really popular and the price is pumping, this may be, I don't know, 0.5 ETH or maybe 1 ETH. So don't go too low, but just observe what's happening as soon as then those NFTs are hitting the secondary market, so the OpenSea. See what's happening with the price and see how much you can get in order to essentially not undercut yourself, but at the same time, so you get some liquidity back and you can carry on reinvesting that. Then I could keep my second one and sell it, I don't know, maybe when the price hits half an ETH or maybe 1 ETH or maybe even more if the project is really popular. And the third one, I could keep it and see what happens. So how do you time when to sell an NFT? Well, it can be quite tricky, because if we look at Bored Ape Yacht Club as an example, it's an extremely successful project. Floor price now is above 50 ETH, so over $200,000. But if you look at the activity, since the project was launched in May this year, the average price, and it's an average price, not the floor price, is the blue line. And you can see that at the beginning, it was quite low. I mean, it was like 0.7 ETH or something like that, which is of course great, because the mint price was, I'm not entirely sure, but I imagine it was below 0.1 ETH. So already a healthy 10x profit or something. And a lot of people would probably go for that. Then the price started picking up quite a bit. So somewhere here in June, so only about a month later, already an average price was around 6 ETH. So that's potentially around 100x gain. So again, a lot of people would be probably selling it here thinking, wow, this is absolutely brilliant. You can make so much more money from that. Then it dipped a bit, started going up again to something like 8, 9 ETH. And then somewhere here in August, it was actually in excess of 20 ETH. So again, those who were selling at 6 ETH would then be probably quite gutted, because suddenly you could sell it for like 4 times more. And then this happened. And of course, there are some peaks here because probably some particularly unique, rare NFTs were sold. But even if you look beyond those peaks, well, you still have something like an average price of 50 ETH, even when it dipped here 34 ETH. And right now we are around 50, and those peaks were as high as 90 ETH. So, of course, very few NFTs will be as successful as Bored Ape Yacht Club, but this sort of gives you an idea of how difficult it may be to judge what's a good price to buy. And of course, you can fall in an opposite trap, expecting that you will do like 100x gain, but actually the NFT only goes up 10x. And to be honest, usually 10x, even in the crypto space, is a really bloody good gain. But a lot of people may think, well, I want, I don't know, at least 20x, 30x, 50x, whatever. My suggestion is don't be too greedy. The mistake I made on first few NFTs is I was expecting them to go up higher, and I thought that something like 6 or 7x gain is not good enough, when in fact, well, I should sell at least one of them to recover my costs and get some healthy profit on top of that. And then this allows me to invest in other NFTs while I still keep another one or two or however many I have in case the price continues going up. Of course, your strategy may be different. Maybe you're getting into NFTs and you're only buying them with a hope that they will either go 100x or 200x, or you will run them down to zero, and that's also fine. That's entirely up to you. But personally, I think, especially if you're trying to build a bigger NFT and ETH portfolio, because you need more ETH to buy more NFTs, I would suggest that you buy 2 or 3, sell one as soon as you can to recover all the costs and include all the gas costs when you were buying that NFT, when you're selling it, when you were listing it. You have to make sure that all the costs are included. And ideally, you would still make a bit of profit on top of that. And that then allows you to reinvest that money. And then you keep the other 1 or 2, and hopefully that you can sell them later for much more. Or you just simply buy into a project. It does, let's say, I don't know, 8 or 10x straight after launch. Something like, let's say, BERX. I think that on the launch date, it went to about 0.6 ETH or something. So you could easily do 10x on the launch date. So you got 2 of those. Well, you paid, probably including gas, something like, I don't know, 0.15 ETH. You could sell a couple of them for probably 1.2 ETH quite easily. Well, that's around 1 ETH profit, or over $4,000 at current prices, which is not bad at all. So just make sure that you have a plan and then act accordingly. I think one important thing also with NFTs is not to get too attached to them. And people sometimes get attached to their investments anyway, because essentially they invest into something because they believe in it. So they expect it to go up in value. And if it doesn't, sometimes they will just hold on to it because they believe in it, even though it may not necessarily actually be a good project or valid project anymore. And with NFTs, I think it's even more difficult, because you're not just buying some coins, you're actually buying a picture usually of some sort. And if you particularly like, let's say, I don't know, this bird, and you want to use it as your avatar or something like that, it may be quite difficult to then sell it, because you think, well, you are somehow attached to it. And that's fine, but you also have to be honest with yourself why you're buying it. If you're buying it because you want a cool NFT, perfect. But if you're buying it to make money from it, to make profit and then keep reinvesting that, then essentially you have to be able to at some point say, okay, well, the price is good right now, I'm selling it. It doesn't matter that I like it. I'm selling it so I can get some money and then reinvest that later. And the final thing I want to say is, don't try to catch every single NFT project. If you're new to this space, you may feel like, oh, I don't even know where to start. But like I said, when you start watching various YouTube videos, going on Twitter, then chatting in Discord channels, very soon you will find out actually, if anything, there are way too many projects on the market and you don't know what to invest in. And of course, there will be stories where people invested in something, you missed out on it, and you're absolutely gutted. And then you either want to FOMO in at a much higher price, or you want to jump into the next thing someone mentions because you want to make sure that you don't miss out again. Don't worry about missing out on opportunities. There will be projects you will miss out on because you don't buy in the first place. There will be projects you will sell way too early. I've done it, everyone done it. There will be projects you will buy thinking that they'll be absolutely amazing, and the project will absolutely crash because either they got hacked or some story came out about the artist behind the project which just took it down, or 1,000 other things can happen. It's fine, it's normal. The most important thing is to just essentially keep your cool, keep evaluating every project, whether it's worth investing in or not, and make sure that you keep taking profits out. Some NFTs will have very short lifespan. It's not necessarily like with crypto where you may buy in the bear market and you know that in the bull market it will pick up. A lot of people are buying now when the NFT market is relatively quiet, and they're holding because they're hoping that once NFTs pick up, all those NFT prices will go up massively. And a lot of them will, absolutely. But some of them, especially new unestablished projects may not necessarily last this long. People will just forget about it and move on to the next thing. So always take profits out. Don't be too greedy. Make sure that, well, profit is profit. Make sure that you are always in profit and you can keep reinvesting that and building your portfolio. And essentially that will put you in a much better position later on in the cycle. And the very final thing I wanted to mention is just make sure that you stay safe in the crypto space or NFT space in particular. Literally every week there are scams, hacks, rug pulls. Projects fail for multiple reasons. Sometimes projects that you would think were too big to fail or too popular to fail. So make sure that you stay safe. Sometimes you cannot avoid it, but be really, really careful. And if I use Doge Pound here as an example, you can see that if I type in the Doge Pound on OpenSea, there are actually four collections which have almost identical name. This one has a dot, this one has S, this one has ER at the end. Of course, there are much smaller collections as well. What's important here is that blue mark, that it's a verified collection. That means that this is the authentic one, and these are all fakes. Sometimes new projects may not necessarily have that tick. So for example, if we look at the Ape Harmony Monster Club, it's not verified, but this is still a legit collection. It's just, it may not have enough volume traded, or there are various reasons why it may not yet have verification. But just make sure that you're definitely buying authentic one. If possible, only follow links from official Discord or the website if it exists. If you have any doubt, chat to people in Discord channels. If the price is too low, it's probably a fake website, or maybe there was something went wrong with the project and it's better to leave it alone. So just stay safe in this space. So I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'll be making more videos about NFTs. I'll be talking a lot about upcoming NFT projects. You may also want to check out my other videos when I talked about various NFTs and crypto in general. If you have any comments or suggestions or questions, please do leave them in the comment section. And hopefully I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.